I've seen and experienced a lot over the last 7 decades in my career. I've met many interesting people, performed over 25,000 shows, and yes, even tuned in on the thoughts in the minds of over 1 million. But then, who's counting? Now, I'm telling you what really happened. Welcome to Kreskin's Amazing Experiences. Yes, this is Kreskin, and again I'm sharing with you my amazing experiences. And I've had a multitude of experiences, being 87 years old and working as busily as ever. I don't intend to retire, and it's a great joy that I have in my career. But at the same time, I'm going to share with you a very special incident that people in show business, in television and broadcasting, and actors and actresses find this one of the most interesting experiences about me, because they said, Kreskin, we never knew this. Carson never told us this. Well, let me tell you the story. Johnny Carson was doing The Tonight Show, but before him was a gentleman by the name of Steve Allen. I got to know Steve Allen very well because when he left The Tonight Show and Carson took over, he moved to Los Angeles and was doing a late night show. All of us watched the show, all of us college students. And when I wasn't performing, or if it was late enough at night that I had finished my show, I would turn on I would turn on The Tonight Show because Steve Allen was doing The Tonight Show then. But he had finally left and gone to Los Angeles. And we still watched him. We watched his nighttime show, which came on later than Carson. Well, finally, I had not done the Steve Allen show then, but some time along that line, when Johnny Carson took over, I was booked on The Tonight Show and doing some 87, 88 appearances, which they don't give that as the number, but the background is Carson never forgave NBC, because NBC in the first 2 years of Johnny Carson's show erased all of those shows, all of them. In those days, shows were not valued that greatly. And a lot of nighttime shows, a lot of popular shows, the Mike Douglas Show and so forth, the early shows were erased. And now in retrospect, everyone regrets that happening. Carson had a bitterness and never forgave NBC for doing it. If you brought up NBC privately to Carson and said some story or something came up, Carson would refer to NBC, but he usually had a number of technical words that were four-letter words that were more popularly used when you weren't in public or on television or what have you, so that he wanted people to know what he thought of NBC. Well, now Steve Allen is in L.A., and he hears about me and so forth, and he decides to fly me out to L.A. I'm going to do the Steve Allen show. I admired this man. He was a legendary person early in his career. He was a writer. He played the piano beautifully well, and he had a tremendous humor. And I was flown out there. Now I get to L.A., and I'm going to go on the show. I'm staying overnight because it's a long trip out, what have you. But I come into the studio, and they show me where I'm going to work from and what have you. Steve Allen isn't there. Now it's before the show goes on, and I'm backstage, and Steve Allen is at a desk at the other end of a long stage, a wide stage. Let's say the right side if you're facing the audience. I said to the crew, maybe it would be better if I don't meet Steve before the show. It'll be my first time with him. I can dramatize the fact that Not only does he not know me, but we haven't even communicated. They say, Kreskin, that makes sense, especially regarding your work as a thought reader. Steve Allen says, this gentleman has a special gift. We're all interested in ESP. Would you welcome a man who has a tremendous talent, Kreskin? He didn't say Amazing Kreskin, because that's a title given me a few years later by Johnny Carson. Now I walk out. The audience is applauding, and I'm in a theater stage setting. And Steve Allen is at the other end of the stage, and I'm walking towards him. But not being a seasoned guest in television or performer, this being early in my career, I'm looking at the camera, which is following me. It's a large camera, has lights along the side. In those days, cameras were designed more heavily. And it's following me across the stage as I go towards Steve Allen. And like a person who knows the business, but certainly did a foolish thing, I am gazing into the camera, and I have these bright lights blinding me as I get to Steve Allen, who's standing on a dais the way Johnny did and the way Mike Douglas, everybody did. And he's about to shake hands with me, and by then I'm blinded. I trip over the dais and fall flat on my face. My family considers that the highlight of my career. But all kidding aside, Steve Allen says, "Are you all right, Kreskin?" I said, "Yes, I'm okay." I got up and I brushed my knees, my trousers off, and what have you. And Steve Allen had me on for over half an hour on the show. Well, ironically enough, a man who heard that a mentalist was going to be on the Steve Allen show saw it, because Johnny Carson always recorded his shows in the daytime, so he's home at night. He said to his wife, "I'm going to watch the Steve Allen show tonight." And Johnny Carson saw that incident, saw the entire take, my performance, but the climax, in which I ended up on my knees. And 8 or 9 days or so later, Johnny Carson created a new character on his program. It was Carnac the Magnificent. And remember, when Carnac came on, he not only fumbled, but he almost fell over the table. Sometimes his cap would fall down and what have you. And I remember as the years went by and people would remind me, gee, that Carnac, he supposedly reading thoughts and so forth. What does that have to do with you and so forth? And the last show I did with Carson, after all those years, I made it a point to thank Johnny. I said, "Johnny, I've never said this before, but all through the years, you've made my name continue. You even added Amazing as part of my key name, and people now, when I come out of airports and what have you, they say, 'Hi, Amazing,' and so forth. And I can't thank you, because even when I'm not on the show, somehow you remind people about me." And Johnny said, "Oh, Carnac, huh? Carnac the Magnificent." And that remark about Carnac the Magnificent was one of the key remarks that I'll remember as long as I live, because evidently I helped create that figure.